Assalamu alaikum dear viewers. Welcome to my channel Crescent Notes. Today we will discuss Oedipus Rex as a tragic hero. In my previous videos I have already discussed tragedy in detail. Tragedy is a drama of a serious and solemn kind with an elevated diction and serious ending. Tragedy traces the career and downfall of an individual and shows in the downfall both the capacities and the limitations of human life. The conception of tragic hero is that a man is highly esteemed and prosperous who falls into misfortune because of some serious hamartia. हमार्शिया को भी मैं अपनी एक वीडियो में ऑलरेडी डिस्क्राइब कर चुकी हूँ. हमार्शिया इज़ अ डिफेक्ट ऑफ करेक्टर विच ब्रिंग्स ट्रेजिक कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस दैट इज़ ट्रेजिक ऑफ फ्लॉ. It was Oedipus' hamartia in the play which was directly responsible for his downfall. Oedipus Rex is one of the most complex and fascinating plays. In fact, there is something mysterious about this play which is rarely remains explicable. Oedipus in the play stands for something, ideal man or all humanity. The play has been supposed to represent expiation through suffering, and the tragic hero has even been compared to objects of veneration. Veneration means the highest degree of respect. The critics have different opinions regarding Oedipus' hamartia. Oedipus in the play is proud and overconfident. He harbors unjustified suspicions against Teresis and Creon. In one place, he goes so far as to express some uncertainty about the truth of oracles. It is considered to be a serious sin that Oedipus has committed incest and patricide. यहाँ पे मैं आपको incest का मीनिंग रिपीट करती हूँ. इंसेस्ट मीनिंग किसी ऐसी रिलेशन के साथ, क्लोज रिलेशन के साथ जिनके साथ हम अज़दवाजी ताल्लुकात कायम नहीं रख सकते, उसको इंसेस्ट कहा जाता है. एंड पेट्रीसाइड मीन्स अपने फादर का मर्डर करना. Oedipus in the play seems not only to esteem the queen very highly but even seems to be somewhat overawed by her. Only once he is unfair to her when he accuses her of being moved by woman's pride and desiring to stop the investigation for fear that it might prove that her husband is low-born. It seems that Oedipus has been very eager to meet his real parents, and the discovery that he has been guilty of the gravest sins towards them horrifies him so much that he commits the horrible act of self-blinding. ये उसके अपने अंदर का गिल्ट था जो उसने दोनों क्राइम्स किए थे, जिसकी वजह से उसने अपने आप को खुद ही अंधा करने का इतना बड़ा कदम उठाया. Oedipus is a loving father, and even after he has discovered that his children are the product of a monstrous and incestuous union, his love of his daughter is not affected. He makes a piteous appeal to Creon to look after them. ये वही उसकी औलाद है जो एट अ टाइम उसकी औलाद भी है और उसके बहन भाई भी हैं. There are certain qualities that distinguish Oedipus as a man. The most striking of these, of course, is his intelligence and the great faith that he and others put in it. However, it seems that this overconfidence makes him fall into error and treat others unjustly. Oedipus is preoccupied with the idea of others being engaged in plots and conspiracies which he must discover and frustrate. He accuses Creon of having joined hands with the blind prophet in order to bring about his overthrow. यहाँ पे वो क्रेओन को ही ब्लेम देता है कि वो जानबूझ के ऐसा चाहता है कि वो मुझे यहाँ से बाहर निकाल दे. From Oedipus' point of view, the charge is not entirely unfounded. Creon's conduct in letting the murder of Lais go without investigation and his to have purificatory rites performed seems to indicate to Oedipus that Creon is afraid of making an accusation against Oedipus directly, and that he has employed the blind prophet as his tool. He means that they accuse him of being the murderer of Lais, so that according to his proclamation he should leave Thebes and enable Creon to become the ruler. Oedipus' unfairness to Tiresias is even more marked. He treats the old prophet with mockery and contempt, claiming that he is not real prophet and that he makes predictions only when they can bring him some profit. Oedipus thinks that this is proved by the fact that Tiresias' skill as a prophet was of no use when Thebes was confronted with the Sphinx. यहाँ पे मैं बताती चलूँ कि मैं ऑलरेडी 2 वीडियोस में स्फिंक्स का जिक्र कर चुकी हूँ. Another quality is Oedipus' strong sincerity and honesty of purpose. He is relentless seeker after truth and is not prepared to give up the quest whatever it may cost him. He has a great capacity for suffering. He is affectionate as a man and very considerate to his people as their king. However, he is somewhat rash and is capable of unfair judgments in fits of temper. His uncommon intelligence also makes him over suspicious, though he also ignores certain facts that are quite apparent. The personal qualities of Oedipus, both good and sad, make him a very interesting character. Although fate and circumstances play a large role in his tragedy, his qualities of character also have an important bearing on his tragedy. A striking feature of the prologue of this play is that the king Oedipus is held in very great esteem by the people, for the priest of Zeus has himself come to make a request to him. Oedipus deeply loves his subjects and speaks of them as children. He is deeply saddened by their suffering. It is clear that there is nothing from which he would shrink in order to end the sufferings of his people. The Thebes have a great faith in their king because he had already saved their city once from the depredation of the winged monster, the Sphinx. After the entry of Chorus, Oedipus takes the instructions of the oracle extremely seriously. He is very thoroughgoing man and does not exempt himself from the curse. The first climax in the play is the scene with Tiresias. Here, another side Oedipus can be seen that he is impatient, short-tempered and ruthless. The meeting with Creon is corollary of this scene. This scene further tells about the unlovable aspects in Oedipus' character. So far, the chorus have implicit faith in Oedipus, and although they regard Tiresias as next in wisdom and knowledge to Apollo, they disregard his dire accusation of their king. The scene with Jocasta is about the past of Oedipus. What Jocasta says about Lais and their child also relates to Oedipus committing grievous impiety by seeking lightly of the oracles, and they expect to be punished for this. It is surprising that the chorus praying to the gods to vindicate their prophecies, because it indirectly means that their prayer is that Oedipus and Jocasta should be punished. The interest is aroused when Oedipus' attention is arrested by Jocasta's casual mention of the place where 3 roads meet. It is logical that he should seek a clarification on this point from the shepherd who was the sole survivor from the party of Lais. Jocasta is deeply troubled by the fact that Oedipus is greatly upset. She offers worship at the altar of Apollo, but as she has been ridiculing his oracles only a short while ago, it cannot be expected that her prayer for the calming of her husband's mind to be fulfilled. In fact, the prayer is ironically answered by the survival of the Corinthian shepherd who would shatter Oedipus' belief that the king and queen of Corinth are his parents. At the same time, it is he who would got the Theban shepherd to answer Oedipus and confirm his suspicions. Jocasta is the first to gather the whole terrible truth. She tries to indirectly warn Oedipus, but since she cannot afford to tell him the reason behind her warning, her efforts remain unavailing. The predictions of the oracle and the additional prediction made by Tiresias about Oedipus becoming blind are fulfilled. The self-blinding of Oedipus has generated much controversy. Oedipus' own statement of the motives that drove him to this step consists mainly of his averseness to seeing the ugly reality around him, which his eyesight would force him. He also says that he could not dare to meet the looks of his parents in the world beyond the grave. There is much significance in Oedipus' self-blinding quite apart from his own statement. It proves that Oedipus still retains some freedom of initiative and is not puppet in the hands of the gods. This is a terrible change in the situation of Oedipus, who was the first of men in the prologue and becomes a homeless blind beggar stained by the deepest pollution of incest and patricide in the last scene. The act of self-blindness also fulfills the prediction made by Tiresias in addition to that made by the oracle of Delphi, namely, he that comes seeing blind and shall go. The step marks further reversal in the fortunes of Tiresias. Oedipus is now twice tormented in the flesh as well as the spirit. Oedipus is now an outcast beggar who has nowhere to go. He pleads with the chorus to have him thrown out of Thebes, but they said that chorus alone cannot take a decision in this matter. In virtue of being a close kinsman of the king and the queen, Creon now assumes the charge of the government, although Oedipus has insulted and maltreated him. Creon does not gloat over the humiliation of his fallen adverse, nor does he rebuke him. On the other hand, he anticipates Oedipus' request and has his daughters brought to him. However, he does not accede to Oedipus' request to banish him. In this consciousness, he slows himself to be the exact opposite of the rash Oedipus. Creon would not take any action unless he is absolutely certain, and he must await the instructions of the gods before deciding Oedipus' fate. The chorus at the end of the play sing about the fickleness of human happiness. They point out that the people of Thebes, that Oedipus was once the greatest of men. He could solve the greatest mysteries. They point out the moral warning which the spectators can derive from the fate of Oedipus, who was the greatest of men and was believed to have the keys to the mysteries of the universe. He enjoyed available prosperity, but fate plunged him to the depth of degradation and misfortune. From this, they must see that man should always look towards his ending. No one should be called happy until that day when he carries his happiness down to the grave in peace. तो यहाँ पे Oedipus Rex एज अ ट्रेजिक हीरो का एंड हुआ. होप आपको मेरा लेक्चर समझ आया होगा. To watch my videos regularly, please subscribe my channel and click the bell icon. Take care. Allah Hafiz.